It's me, the lead boy TV. Oh, let me do that again. It's me, the LEEBOY TV. I'm here with my guy Prime, the PRIME. Say what's up to the people, Prime.
What's up, y'all? It's me, the PR. I am me.
I just said that, man. Why you gotta repeat what I just said? Come on,
Well,
get with the
it's my rhyme
get with the
first.
times,
My
Prime.
rhyme first. What's up,
And we
people?
got an extra special guest today. Somebody I know for a while, and someone that you guys are going to get to know. If you don't know him already, he's already been around the world and doing things in entertainment for years. So you ought to know this guy. But if not, you're going to know this guy. That is Mr. Thomas Hobson, or I call him Tommy. Is it Tommy, Thomas? What are you
Listen,
doing nowadays?
listen, everyone, it's so confusing. I make life so hard for the people I work for because it's Thomas in the credits, but no one calls me
Mm,
Thomas in life. But my mom
okay.
always said, your name is Thomas, let the credits say Thomas. But no one calls me that. So it's
Yeah,
always
I mean,
confusing.
it's always been Tommy to me, but you're right on IMDb, which we'll be going through tons of your credentials on that particular page. It is Thomas pretty much everywhere. So, yeah, glad to have you, man. Thank you so much for being part of the Prime Nostalgia podcast.
Yep,
I'm
yep.
excited to be here.
Hey, Prime. Should we just hop straight into it? Because this guy is actually a nostalgia legend when it comes to these TV appearances he has from is it the 90s? It starts in the 90s, right? We didn't go back to the 80s. No.
It starts in like 89, I
Ooh,
think.
Lord. Look, you
Yeah.
didn't edge yourself. God damn.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm like, it's fine.
You said I look good for my age anyway, so it's all good.
You know,
But yeah, I mean, it starts with 227.
two two seven.
227, which is obviously, up there in the Raptors as far as the
Wait a minute.
nostalgic
Wait a
TV
minute.
show.
Wait a
You
minute.
didn't
We
know this,
gotta
Prime?
stop. We gotta stop.
What's up?
Did you say 227 as if you just thought it was just in the 90s? 227 was like probably over in 1990.
Well, hey man, you're the expert around here. My bad. I was just being careful. I like to ask questions if I'm not sure. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's part of the
Cool, that's
show,
cool.
bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm building it up. But yeah, 227 from the 80s. Um,
Yes.
is that where you got your start? Is that the first appearance you had on television?
That was my first TV guest spot. Yeah, my first job was a company. I don't even know if Church's Chicken even exists anymore, but it was Church's Chicken,
Oh, still out there. The honey
and that
biscuits,
was
Honey
yeah.
my
biscuit,
yeah
yeah,
that
yeah.
that was my very first like commercial I ever booked. And yeah, and then I think 227 came maybe like 6 months or so after that commercial. Um, yeah, I
Yeah.
can't watch it because it's hard for me to watch 6-year-old, 7-year-old me just not being great. And I
Right.
mean, you know, doing the best I could, but it was my first time on TV, and I was laughing at jokes before they happened, and I just, I've gotten much better, I hope, since then. But no,
You
it's
hope that
it's
you got
such
better.
an
Come on now.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
such
give
an
yourself
honor.
some credit. Yeah. Look,
Yeah,
it's funny because go ahead.
no, I was gonna say I just saw I don't know her at all, but I saw Regina King at a TV Academy party right before the pandemic, and I was like, listen, you have no reason to remember this because I don't remember it, but
Right.
my very first TV credit was 227, and she was like, "You're right, I would not remember that, but that is awesome and congratulations." And I was like, "Yeah, no, it's really cool to meet you
Yeah,
and celebrate all
officially,
the
yeah.
great things you're doing." Yeah,
And I was gonna make the joke. You don't know nothing about Churchy's chicken because you like hella swole right now. I know you don't be eating no like fatty chicken and biscuits the way I still get it in. So you on your health
listen,
kick. I know.
listen. I am. My dad told me when I turned 30. My dad said, on top of the actual gifts that my parents gave me for my birthday, my dad was like, "Here's my like life gift to you." He's like, "You're 30 now. Things are about to slow down.
Mm,
Okay." He
good
said, you're gonna
advice.
wake up one day and you're gonna have a little belly on you and you're gonna be a little older and you're gonna be like, what the hell happened? He said, so I'm just letting you know now because gotta love him. I love my dad so much. He said, because you're a little vain. It's not it's not your fault. It's you're an actor, is what you do for a living. You got to think about your body and all those things. He said, but just start working out now. Start making the habits now so that you can still have the bad foods when you want them, but you already
Mm,
have. So, and also now I do teach. I was just taking spin classes at this place called Sweat Cycle here in LA. And like a year and a half, 2 years ago, they were like, people like you, would you ever want to teach? And I was like, well, I'm acting, I got this career. And they were like, we'll work around it. When you can be here. When you can't, don't. And my dad again was like, they want to pay you to stay in shape. And I was like, oh, that's, yeah.
Hey, Dad's a
Yeah,
smart
you're right.
guy, man.
Dad's a smart guy. He's a good man to have on your team.
And I know that firsthand, but yeah, we got to get into some of these other TV appearances because you did some legendary ones. You did A Different World.
I did.
And obviously that's crazy out of here when it comes to nostalgia. And Living Color, which I tried to find some of these skits, so difficult to find because those is hella old. And then Step by Step, man. I mean, not everybody loves that show the way I do. I'm sure Prime has a warm spot in his heart for Step by Step. Look, no? Oh, you on Boy Meets World. Boy Meets World, my bad. But Step by Step was a hitter for me as well on TGIF, right? It was right before TGIF, Boy Meets World. Yeah, right before.
Yeah, I loved that show. It's really great, as you know, like it's really great when you get to be on shows you're a fan of. It's just it makes like it's like the cherry on top of the cake. You're like, oh, I get to not just work, but I get to work on a show that I actually really love. Obviously, A Different World. I was obsessed with A Different World even as a kid.
And tell us about that. Do you have any memorable moments from A Different World that you can remember? Like,
yeah, I actually do. There are two things when people talk to me about Different World that I jumped to immediately. We had an episode with Lena Horne on it, and she played herself. And the show was a tribute. The school Hillman was doing a tribute to Lena Horne, and Lena Horne showed up for the tribute. And then we got to like hang out with Lena Horne for 5 days and hear her stories. And she sang Stormy Weather at one point on the show. I mean, it was just, you could hear a pin drop. Even the audience that was watching was just silent until it was over. And also A Different World was my introduction in life to Jennifer Lewis. And because she was the dean of the school towards the end of the show, and would just crack me up all the time. So those are like my two really strong memories. Also, Diane Carroll and Patti LaBelle, who played Whitley and Dwayne Wade's mothers, they were on the last episode, and I got to hang out with them. And I was like, this is
hanging out with legends. Look,
hanging out with legends. I remember that. I don't need pictures to remember that. I'm like, I remember those moments vividly.
Jennifer Lewis, Diane Carroll, Patti LaBelle. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that, especially, when you have this amazing, I mean, the whole cast of A Different World is great, and so many dope appearances on there. So yeah, I can only imagine. That's definitely a show. I mean, just from the intro that everybody wanted to be. I mean, just can I do a bop and just be in that intro for a second? Like
which by the way, that I have no idea if this is an urban legend or not, but I've heard it from enough credible sources that I think it's true. That like Aretha Franklin showed up and did one take of that song and then left.
Prime, can you
that's true.
See, Prime, he's like the encyclopedia when it comes to
okay. Which just makes it more iconic. I'm imagining her walking in, setting her purse on the table, singing one take through, and then picking up her purse and her paycheck and walking out the door.
Pretty much. I think I want to say Boyz II Men did the same thing, but I think theirs was like 3 takes.
Okay.
So close, but yeah,
close. But yeah, not quite Aretha. And then one that I was personally jealous of, and this is you coming up. I think we had already maybe spend a little bit of time together, and we'll talk about AGC briefly later. Amazing Grace Conservatory, if you guys don't know, is where we got our start, at least together, as far as some of our training. You was already in 227 probably before AGC, but you was already on your way. But when you got to play Michael Jordan in that damn American Hero television show, and look, can we just start by saying you had no business being goddamn Michael Jordan?
I had no business being Michael Jordan. I was so mad. I was so mad during the audition process. I was so angry because I was a soccer player. My team was in like the playoffs. And for the first audition, I had a game that started almost at the same time. And so with the 2 hours almost of traffic to get back to Upland, I got there for the second half of the game. And I was like, for a role I'm never going to get.
Right.
And then I got a call, and then I got a call back. And the same thing happened. And this time I made it back for the last 20 minutes of that game, and we lost that game. We were out of the playoffs. And I was like, if I'd been here the whole time, we would have won. I look nothing like him. I'm not good at basketball. This is so dumb. And then my mom the next morning was like, you're never going to believe this. You booked it. And I have a picture. It's one of my favorite pictures from my whole career. It's all of the Michael Jordans lined up for a press shoot. Little Michael, and then 8-year-old Michael, and then teenage Michael, and then adult Michael. One of these things is not like the others. I stick out. I stick out like a sore thumb. It is hysterical.
Pick out which one's the light skinned Mike? Pick him out. Look, that's him right there.
And he went from me, and not just me, who was maybe 5'5" or 5'6" at that time.
Right.
To the adult who played him,
Michael.
Yeah,
there's only
that.
Michael, who it was 7 or foot taller than me.
That is the funniest transformation though, because it's you got teenage, then he built and
it all happens in a montage. It's all in a montage. It's I'm dribbling and shooting and scoring, and then they're
it's just a fade to black, and then
cross fades, and then he's there.
Going to college. Yeah, he's going to North Carolina. But you definitely played an integral part in Mike's story, as far as not making the varsity team, which people hear about that legend all the time. So great to see you on screen portraying that part of Mike's life. Like I said, I was jealous. I was a big, basketball fan, and you got to play Jordan, and then some of our other friends got to be in Space Jam from agency. So it was right off the back of me being, mad about that. It's always the ones you don't expect to get, right? It's just you got it, man.
Listen, I really wanted, someone asked me the other day, they said, what's one role that got away from you that you were sad about? And I was like, I can't really, none really, because, I was so clear that what was for me was nope, thought of one. Hook. I had 4 auditions for Hook, and I was sitting in the hallway with the final round of kids that they were choosing from, and just got so close. And then I had 3 friends that got it, and I was I'm really happy for you, but also 10-year-old me was but I have to hear your stories about how much fun it was
with Robin Williams on top of it.
And all I wanted to do was, and I still love that movie to this day, but
were you going for Rufio?
No, I was going for this guy, I forgot his last name, but his name is Ahmad. And his role, and then there were 2 other roles, pretty much any black kid who was in Hook, I probably read for their role. I remember the casting office we did it in. I remember everything about it because I wanted it that badly. So I get it.
Yeah, I definitely have a few roles in my career, quote unquote career, that definitely got away from me. And I remember everything about the audition processes too. You never forget those moments. But you've had so much success, moving away from some of the nostalgic television shows. Let's get into, can we get into Fresh Beat? You ready, Prime?
Let's get into Fresh Beat.
Yes.
Uh-oh. What does that mean?
So I'm gonna shoot it to you. You got any questions for Fresh Beat, Prime?
First of all, can you tell us when you first read about this role? Because it's an energetic type of thing that you gotta do. So when you first read about this role, what did you think?
I'll tell you honestly. I was sitting in a friend's apartment. We were reading Backstage magazine because they used to have auditions on the back page. And at the time, the 2 people I was sitting with didn't have agents. And so they were going through and oh, there's this breakdown for this Nickelodeon show. They're looking for an open call for singers and dancers who can act and stuff. And I was like, oh, okay. And they were you should go. And I said, no, I just graduated from Yale University. I've done Shakespeare. I'm a very serious actor. And the next day for the open calls, they called me and said, where the heck are you? Get your butt over here. And so I went, and at that point, I just knew that he sang and danced. So I sang a song and left. And then 2 weeks later, I got a packet full of information and sides for a callback, but I was in Hawaii. And the casting director was like, what do you mean you're in Hawaii? I said, well, I had a trip planned So
Wait, what
I'll
do
be
you
back
mean?
in.
What do I mean? What, I'm in
Yeah,
Hawaii.
I was like, I'll be
Darn
back
it.
in 3 days. I'll be back in 3 days. And he said, okay, great. So the fourth day, that morning at 9 a.m., I had to be at the Nickelodeon studios where you used to film all that. I had to be there at 9 o'clock in the morning to do like 10 pages of sides and sing for the EPs. And that's when I really figured out who Shout was. I was like, oh, this is a lot of energy. He's got a lot of energy because the first episode, the pilot episode, was Loco Legs, where I spend 30 minutes not being able to stop my legs from moving. And I actually choreographed all of that for my audition and then for my screen test. And then we just filmed that in the show. And I'll tell you, when we filmed the pilot, I was so tired at the end of every day. There were a couple of nights when I legit just passed out and I would have to get in the bathtub and like soak my legs because my legs were dead. But yeah, so I told people for the years I was on the Fresh Beat Band were probably like my least energetic years outside of work.
Right.
Because it took so much energy to, because you can't be here for Nick Jr., for that kind of energy. It has to be, like, hey, like we're doing this thing and it's great. And that
it is great, yeah.
That is when after like 15 hours of that in a day, you're like, all right, man, I'm just cool. I just go, I'm cool. I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to do anything. But yeah, no, I had no idea he would be that energetic. And I'm sure that my bosses would say that I did that to myself because I'm also very, I come from a very athletic family. They're all like basketball players and football players and things. And so like, I'm very competitive. So if you give me a task, I'm going to do it at 150% because
Amen.
If you want me to jump over the couch like this, I'm going to clear it by a couple of feet because that's going to be even cooler. Just wait for it, So yeah, that was Shout.
Yeah, Shout. And then I know you guys hit the road. You guys went on a tour, right? And then
we did.
And what was it like being on tour with the people that you were on the show with for so long?
I got to tell you, that was actually one of my favorite things. It was great because, when you film a TV show, you film it in a bubble. And so you really, unless you have a studio audience, which the Fresh Beat Band did not, but so we didn't get feedback from the target audience. We knew people were watching it because the network kept ordering more, but I didn't know until we went on tour. I had no idea how special the thing we were doing was. We kind of thought, oh, we'll go on tour. Maybe someone will come, maybe not. And then the first tour, I think, sold out in about 30 minutes. And there were like 45 dates.
Well, you
and they
sold out here? I didn't know all that.
I was like, what? Are you kidding? So then they doubled the size of the tour. And we started doing 2 shows in each place, and that sold out. So our first tour was, I think the New York Times called it Beatlemania for children.
Wow.
And it was just a really humbling and overwhelming experience. Exhausting. Living on a tour bus is not easy. Luckily, I really liked my castmates, and we're still very close. So living with them wasn't difficult, but just like, I missed so many things, like I told someone, my grandmother turned 80 and my whole family was in a restaurant and in LA, and I was in Louisville, Kentucky, talking to them on FaceTime, but it was worth it for the things I got to experience and the people I got to meet. And I'm shockingly really good friends with a lot of the parents and kids that I met on tour.
Wow.
A lot of the Make-A-Wish kids, a lot of, the kids who were dealing with cancer, or, their parents were overseas fighting in a war, or, those really special stories. And I've kept in touch with a lot of them. And it's really, for me, validated that experience. And it's made the Fresh Beat Band in my mind something really special. Because I think when I was in the middle of it, I couldn't really appreciate it. I was just sleepy, and then now I'm like, man, it's a really special thing. And it's nice that now 18, 19, 20-year-olds will come up to me on the street and be like, I used to watch you when I was a kid, man. And I'm like, that's very cool. That makes me happy.
Awesome, awesome.
Now,
And no, I was just gonna say Nickelodeon is, great as far as making sure that they do get those stories in front of us. The cast, I remember from all that meeting some Make-A-Wish kids, and those are always some of the special moments. And I forgot to mention this guy's on a new Nickelodeon show, That Girl Lele, which premieres on September 23rd. You guys make sure you check that out. He plays the dad named Bryce. And we'll definitely talk about that later. And we might even throw this in at the beginning of the podcast. But yes, Tommy Hobson, so great to be part of the Nickelodeon family. It's awesome.
Listen, I love the Nickelodeon family. I've said to my bosses now, it's like, I left with a great feeling. We were a TV show. We were a touring entity. We had top selling albums. We had merchandise. We had a cartoon. So like when it was over, it didn't feel, I was sad to not see everyone, but I also felt like we really got to do it. Like we did everything. And so I left the network and was like, okay, let me build my resume with other things so people can know the full, 360 degrees of me. And, in the middle of a pandemic where I found myself really getting to stretch my wings and play some really different kinds of roles for myself, I booked the most unique role of all, which is the dad on a sitcom. And I was like, oh, I'm there already. I didn't even realize I'd reached. When the audition came in, I was like, I'm a dad? Really?
And we'll get into that for sure. We're going to spend a lot of time on That Girl Lele. But you talked about the 360 and getting to, filling out so many different parts of your career. And you also mentioned doing some choreography going into the audition. Did you do anything behind the scenes on the Fresh Beat Band as far as choreography, vocal arrangement, and things like that?
No, luckily we had a really great team. For most of the TV show, Chuck Maldonado was our choreographer. And he did our first, I think, 2 tours. But we also had Mandy Moore, who is an Emmy-winning choreographer. She's now a producer on Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist. She's, does stuff for So You Think You Can Dance, Dancing with the Stars. So we had a really solid team of people who would just come in and do great stuff. Our music producers, including like Matter Music and Peter Zizzo. And Peter Zizzo, look him up. I mean, he's written some of your favorite songs. And so all we really had to do was come in and sing them well. So I guess I get some credit for that. And dance all night. It was such a crazy job. We actually filmed next door to Glee. And we never really got to hang out with each other because we were all filming so much, but I was like, we're the only people who can understand right now what it's like to be us. That like, I wake up every morning and I'm in dance for like 3 hours, and then I shower off, go to set. I'm on set for like 10 or 12 hours, and then maybe if there's enough time, I'll go to a studio and record a song, and then rinse and repeat, do it all again the next day. But I was they did say I was kind of like the de facto assistant choreographer. Okay. Because whenever the choreographer whenever the choreographer and the associate weren't around, everybody was looking at me like, Tommy, you know what we're supposed to do here, right? And like, I got you.
Yeah, and obviously, me knowing you from way back, I knew that was a perfect role for you as far as being able to sing, dance. I mean, and that's what people saw when they looked it up on Backstage. They were like, Tommy, this is you. So it's just such a perfect role for one, your personality, you're so upbeat, and then obviously you get to sing and dance, which is just great to be able to utilize all the skills that you grew up cultivating. And then as far as the cartoon, though, Fresh Beat was a little bit young for me. But the cartoon, I actually, it's hella embarrassing, but I actually, got to watch a little bit of it. It was, every once in a while, some Nickelodeon, Nicktoons is on, and it's just on. And then obviously I'm very familiar with your voice, and I'm like, hey, it's Tommy. So it's great that they brought, was it all of you guys back for that?
It was all of us back. And then they also added to the mix. So Tom Kenny, who is the voice of SpongeBob, was on the show with us. The people they brought in, Tara Strong, who is like a queen of voiceover, everything you've ever loved, Tara Strong's voice is probably in it, including I just finished watching Loki on Disney Plus, and I was like, this computer sounds a lot like, it's Tara Strong. So it was not only were we doing a cartoon, which is a dream come true, a cartoon based off of me that looks like me, like this is awesome.
And that's what
But
made it
then I
so
got a
great for
master
me to
class.
watch. Yeah, that's what made it so
Yeah.
great for me to watch. It's like it's Tommy and like
It
animated. It's awesome. Yeah.
yeah. And then I got a master class from some of like the best people to do voiceovers. So I loved that. I would have done that. And I'll say this now so that everybody can hear it and they can call me on it. I've said this countless times. That is one of the things in my life that if someone said, "Oh, it's coming back, would you do it again?" I would do the cartoon again in a heartbeat. It was just really, really fun. And you sit in a room acting dumb with your friends. It's amazing.
But you did not say that about the live action show. I was gonna
I listen. Here's the thing. I love the live action show. I am too old now for what is required.
Come on,
shout. I can't give you shout anymore. Someone was like, "Yeah, the reunion tour. You should do a reunion tour." I can't wait to see 40-year-old Shout doing Loco Legs. And I was like, nah, I'm son. No.
So I don't even got to ask the question of which one you like the most, because that was how I was going to wrap it up. Is between the show, The Band of Spies, and being on tour, it sounds like The Band of Spies is the most unforgettable, or the one you would want to repeat.
The one I would want to repeat. The other ones are more physically taxing, and it's hard to imagine being almost like 10 years removed from that space now, going back into that energy. I could do it with my voice, but I'm like, man, those concerts, we would do a 90-minute concert and then get off stage, towel off, and then do like a 2-hour meet and greet. You know, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Okay, what about a one-time concert, like a charity concert?
Just one time.
You know,
yeah. What about
you know what?
time?
You know what, Prime? You got me there. I would do a one time. Yeah. Yeah, like one or two nights at Madison Square Garden Theater would be clutch. I would be like, yeah, let's do it. Let's give these kids some nostalgia and, you know, give them a couple of their favorite songs.
That's what I would like for a lot of these reboots. Instead of like a full show, I would just like an hour special with some of these. I think that would be better.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't like, when Friends was on, I didn't watch it a lot. I binged it like, you know, probably in my college years. I was like, oh, I'll watch this show. Everyone says it's funny, but their reunion on HBO Max, and it was just very nostalgic. Like, I was like, oh, wow, it's really nice to, you know, check in with them and see how they're doing. And I really love knowing that they're still friends, that they still hang out, and that they still do stuff, like that kind of stuff. And as a person who has an experience like that now and can tell you that like the final iteration of the Fresh Beat Band, like the four of us, we're on a group chat. We go to lunch all the time. We go to dinner all the time. Like it's you know, when you have those bonds with people who are the only people who really understand,
right,
the structure of like what it is you all went through. It's a bond that you'll never break.
That's good to hear, man. I'm always glad to hear about cast sticking together and being able to being able to politic, do dinner, and have fun. All that, cast. Come on, y'all. Let's get it together. Look, I'll throw the shade right to him. I'll throw it right at you. But yeah, man. And, you know, and just speaking of friends and knowing each other, I think this is a perfect time for us to just mention Amazing Grace Conservatory.
Before you get there.
Okay, Prime.
Okay.
Okay,
Before
Prime.
you mention,
you're gonna interrupt my whole transition. All right.
I'm gonna just say this is an ongoing thing. It seems like he gets everybody from AGC just to talk about AGC.
Oh yeah, a little bit.
Just so they can tell him, just so they can say how good he was on the show. I feel like I think I'm catching on. I'm catching on.
Oh, that's what you wanted to stop me to say. I was fired at AGC. I ain't gonna lie, but Tom, he was a little bit older than me. I definitely looked up to him. Everybody else, you know, I had beat out. So
it's always two things. It's either AGC so they can tell you how good you is, or you don't like Kyla Pratt because she took your award. It's one of the two.
Hey, relax on that. I'm figuring it out. Why you gonna
one
bring that
or
up?
the two. It's one of the two.
But no, I was gonna say I knew Tommy, and you know, I remember him most from Little Shop of Horrors. He played Orange Crivello, DDS, which is the dentist, obviously, by DDS, if you didn't get that. And you split that with my cousin Chris too. But you know, you had the voice. You had the voice. You know, obviously Chris knows that, so he ain't gonna take no.
Oh no. Listen, that's my buddy. You know, I've known Chris since I was 6 years old, and he was 8. I met him on one of my first auditions, so we're good. Yeah, because you know, I wasn't supposed to split that role with him. it was his role. And then he was like, oh crap, prom is one of the nights and I want to go to prom. And so they asked me if I would cover for him for one night. And I said, sure, which was the second weekend of the show, not the first weekend. And then he booked like a huge commercial or guest spot or something and was like, oh, I can't do opening anymore. And so the Saturday of opening, I, who had never run the show, they told me Friday nights, I never even rehearsed it because I was going to rehearse the next week. I came in, I got one run through, and then we opened the show. And I was like, I can't believe that happened. I can't believe I did it. And it was one of those great lessons, those many AGC lessons where I'm like, oh, this has happened to me in my adult life so many times. And I'm like, I've already been through this. No need to stress out. I got it.
And that's why Prime, I always want to highlight it because, Amazing Grace Conservatory under the tutelage of Wendy Raquel Robinson, also Tracy Lamar Coley, Denise Dowles, and others. Yeah. Can't mention everybody, but, those are some of the main players there. Definitely created a culture that was competitive and made us so good, made us so much better and ready for this industry. So I always like to give them a shout out when I can. And I'm sure they played a part in, in your personal development and career. Obviously, we was driving all the way from Upland to go up there. So it was important to us coming up.
It was very important. Listen, my parents were like, oh, we got to get this kid around some Black people because he's out here in Upland.
That part too, yeah.
I went in for a dance call for something, and it was freestyle time. And all my freestyle moves, we found out at that dance call, were like 2 years old. And my mom was like, oh, okay, well, we got to find a school that's not in the suburbs. Boys awesome. Doing the Cabbage Patch in like 94.
And it was definitely in the hood. Shout out to Crenshaw and Adams. We was out there.
Shout out to Crenshaw and Adams.
Prime. I think that's a good spot for us to go to break, unless you have anything before we take some time. And we usually like to ask our guests to recommend a song that they would like everyone to listen to, whether it's Fresh Beat, whether it's from Orange Scrivello, anything, whatever you can think of. Give our audience and our listeners something to check out.
Okay. You know what? Those are actually very good suggestions. You should listen to You'll Be a Dentist from Little Shop of Horrors because it's just such a fun song. Right now, my favorite song I'm obsessed with right now, this artist named Vincent, Vincint. He has a song called Loving You 88. And it's a pretty, that whole album is great, but that song is great.
Dope. Okay. So yeah, we'll put that on, and then make sure you guys come back because we're going to be talking about that girl Lele. This is Bryce right here. He's playing a dad, y'all. It's crazy. We're getting old out here. Or at least I am. I ain't gonna speak for Tommy because he still looks great. He looked better, just as young as me. But yeah, we'll be right back right here on Prime Nostalgia Podcast. All right, and then so we'll throw that on. I got a couple more questions, and then we'll just get into some Lele stuff. Prime, you have anything specific?
No, but first I'm gonna read this thing.
What's
the
up?
synopsis.
Okay, before when we first come back.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Do you have anything you want us to mention, Tommy, before we
anything specific about Lele or Scott, if you're there? If you have anything specific you want us to mention.
Yeah, if Scott has anything. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'll say obviously we'll go through the synopsis, kind of talk about the cast. I'll let Tommy explain that. And then obviously I'll just talk about the switch from your old Nickelodeon role to your new Nickelodeon role. And we'll just keep it light and get into the show.
Yeah, I'm good because whatever. Oh, he says that sounds great. Yeah, whatever you guys bring up, I'll fill in the other spaces, that feel necessary. So yeah, easy breezy.
Oh, he was on break right now. He could have said yeah. No,
oh, okay, yeah, he's all good. All right, yeah, we got his chat. All right, and then Tommy, I want to ask you. Can I ask you a personal question?
Yeah.
All right.
On the show right now.
This is the question I have. And just let me know. In your personal life, you're a huge advocate for the LGBT movement. What does it say about your talent in Nickelodeon to be accepted to play to play a father in a traditional family role?
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool.
I'd love to talk about that.
Dope. All right. And so Prime, you ready?
Yeah. Bring
All
us back.
right, all right. We are back right here on the Prime Nostalgia Podcast. I'm Lee Boy TV. This is Prime, and we got Tommy Hobson, Thomas Hobson. Excuse me. We going by his accredited name,
It just,
Thomas Hobson.
I feel like Thomas Hobson is a name that you got to wear glasses and you got to say Thomas Hobson. You
Oh
gotta do
yeah,
Thomas
that type of-
Hobson.
that's
yeah,
for
you gotta do
later
that
on
type
in
Yes,
life, right? When he's on like Silence of the
Later on.
Lambs Part 5 and stuff. Like,
Come on.
Oh man, but I mean, do you plan on doing any? I mean, in fact, before we get into That Girl Lele, I must say, in between your first stint on Nickelodeon and where you are now, you've done a tons of, well, you had some TV appearances. In fact, you're on a couple shows. You did Paz Raz, Live from Eighth Dimension, Sherman Showcase, where you were a dancer, but you also did a ton of short films, one of which you actually have a credit with your sister, Tiana Hobson. That
Yeah.
was award winning. So what was it like just keeping it fresh as far as the short films and getting some of those adult roles in between now, leading to, you being a dad?
Yeah.
So
I'll tell you, it was rough because when we finished the freshman band, I was burned out. I was just like, man, I'm so tired. It was a wonderful like 4 or 5 years, but it was like a nonstop grind, and my body was kind of broken down, and my immune system was wrecked, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I just want to do nothing for a while. And actually, I considered not forever, but maybe for a while, stepping away from acting. I thought, maybe producing would be fun. I realized doing the freshman band that I've been doing this so long that my brain actually is a producer's brain,
right.
that I would have thoughts and say things and they would already be in motion. They were like, oh no, we just said that. Yeah, you're so right. So so my sister and I produced a movie together, and I just because I wanted to have the experience. And it was everything I thought it would be. It was fun. It was exhilarating. It was awful. It was hard. It was terrifying. I didn't know if we were going to finish it. Just all these things. And it gave me a deeper appreciation for like even negotiating contracts. I was like, no, yeah, I did a movie once. And the answer was no. Like I legit was like, I can't afford anything else. I've given all the money I have. I can't afford, so yeah, and I think that the short films and the indie projects, all that stuff, what it did was it reinvigorated me. It gave me a space where I could try and fail, that like if everyone around me, because everyone was so scared to let me do things. And I was like, well, then fine, I'll go over into this other space and I'll do all the things. And then I'll get the confidence that I can do all those things. And I'll come back to you and we can say, and I said for the whole time between Freshman Band and Lele, my favorite thing was how many producers were like, I cannot believe that you are able to do this project. Like I'm looking at your resume. I'm thinking about you as a human, you as a talent, and I can't understand why you're available for my web series or my, I said, the world's sleeping on me, and until they wake up, this is what I'm going to do. And so during the pandemic, I filmed my biggest movie role ever, which two friends of mine wrote the movie, and they wrote it for me. And then the industry tried to take it away from me to hire someone famous. And then it came back to me because it was meant to be mine. And I spent my last summer last year filming Ghost of the Ozarks with like Tim Blake Nelson and David Arquette and Phil Morris and all these great people. But my name was number one. And I was like, you have no idea the uphill climb to get to this space. And then to, at this point in the pandemic, transition from that serious, gritty piece of work into like this sitcom broad comedy and be a dad. It's everything I've ever wanted. When I left the Freshby Band, when it all ended and they said, okay, we're all done. And I said, thank you so much. This has been great. I just wanted to create a world where everyone would see the full breadth of my talent. Lele is kind of the culmination of that, I think.
Yeah. And Prime, can you tell us a little bit about That Girl Lele? Other than she's Lele, not lay low. Okay. Get it together, all right. Love Lele.
Pretty much this show, from what I understand, from what is the promos and everything, I'm gonna give a quick synopsis. But before I do all that, this show has magic in it. That's correct.
It does have magic in it, yes.
It has magic in it. So can you tell the listeners, is that how that's explained in the show for you? Because
Okay.
little
Yeah.
kids and magic. Can you just you don't have to give everything. Just
Well, no,
tell the
I won't
snippet of
give
how.
too much away, but I'll say
Yeah.
it's very like in the spirit of like Sabrina the Teenage Witch or the original, not the current Netflix one. Let me be clear about that. The TGIF Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Even like Small Wonder, which was a show in the 80s, early 90s, where like Vicky the Robot, and then Out of This World, where there was a girl who could actually, she put her fingers together like this and she could freeze time. So it's very much so like in the spirit of that. So the basic premise is my daughter has, she's kind of a wallflower, very shy, socially reserved, not the most confident person when you meet her, but she has this positive affirmation app, and the app like gasses her up and gets her ready for presentations and school and everything. And then one night she wishes that the app were real, and a shooting star flies by and she comes out of the phone ready to live a real life. And so the only person who knows about her is my daughter Sadie. Everyone else just thinks that she is an exchange student from Houston, who we decided to let come live in our house. But yeah, that's how the magic is explained, because she's actually like an app out of a phone that came to life.
And then Sadie is played by Gabrielle Nevaeh Green, who is a friend of the show. Also, all that cast members.
All that.
Shout out to Gabrielle for sure.
She's so good. She's so good. Like she's just such she's such a pro already. Like you just like know that she's got a great head on her shoulders and she's just on her way. And Lele is just a superstar. And it's so funny to think, like, we watched episode 1 and we watched episode 9 a couple of weeks ago, and just watching the progression between the two, as a person who was not an actress traditionally speaking, and she's become she's hysterical and she's a natural, and it's just magical. And my little son Peyton Perrine, God, I love that little kid so much. This is his first big TV gig and he's just killing it. And then Caleb Brown, who is our little next door neighbor Jeremy. I mean, it's just a beautiful little family. And a shout out, of course, to my wife Tiffany Daniels, who I've known for 15 years. And then I will tell you this: if you have to pretend to be in love with someone, especially during a pandemic, I hope you're blessed to let it be one of your favorite humans on the planet, because it's just easy.
Awesome, yeah. Why are you laughing, Prime?
Because I was thinking there's so many people that you can hate that you had to be stuck with to be in love with.
Yes, and I will not name names, but it has happened. Right. So this is best case scenario.
Shout out to Tiffany then, yeah, for making it easy.
Yeah. But so Lele is an avatar on the app, and like Tommy said, she pretty much comes to life, which will be explained. I just want to know. Oh, before we get there, I want to say the show does come out Thursday, September 23rd, 7:30 p.m. Now, usually shows come out at 8. How do you think the 7:30 spot will differentiate from the usual?
I think Nickelodeon is smart doing that, because I think Nickelodeon, because our lead-in show is Young Dylan. Tyler Perry presents Young Dylan. So he comes on at 7, we come on at 7:30. I think it's actually kind of genius, because Thursday is a very competitive night of television. All that television starts at 8. So like, even I, as a person who's like an avid fan of Grey's Anatomy, I've seen every episode of Grey's Anatomy. I was like, oh crap, my show comes on Thursday before Grey's comes on.
Yeah.
I can watch my show. So it also feels like, because the show is also, our show really is in a really wonderful way straddling the line between like the traditional sort of teenage sitcom on Nickelodeon and like an adult sort of comedy. Our writer, David A. Arnold, our creator, really sort of pushes the comedy as far as he can while still respecting the space it's in. So I think it's going to be a great transitional spot. I think 7:30 is actually a really smart time for it to air.
Yeah. I mean, and then when you have a talent like Lele, it's important that that comedy is definitely input in there, because I mean, I remember just seeing her on Wild 'N Out when she told, y'all worked for Nick, and I was like, I work for me and y'all work for Nick. I was like, this girl is a star. And ironic now, because she works with Nick And from what I
Mhm.
understand, they work with her on our music and also her
Yep.
products and other programming. So, it's just great that she gets this spotlight and then you guys get to support her. And I'm just excited to see it. So make sure you guys go check
Yeah,
that out on
check it
September
out.
23rd, 7:30.
I tell people that they're basically like, it's like we're like Fresh Prince of Bel-Airing Lele, and I think it's lovely. She's so deserving of it and ready for the moment, which is really really awesome.
You know, I'm thinking I can't get it because when you was explaining it, it reminds me of a show, but I can't think of what show it is. But it just where they took in the guy, they took in the kid. Oh, is it Alice
Mhm.
Strange? Is that
Alan
what it is?
Strange?
Is it?
I would say is Alan Strange a little bit like Alan Strange, a little bit because he's an alien, comes from out
But
of
they took
nowhere,
him
and he gets
into the
adopted into a
okay.
family, and he has all these powers. So yeah, I could give you that.
Well,
I could give you that. Shout out to Nickelodeon for the
I
classic.
don't know. Yeah, I was just thinking Alex Mack too. Like she had powers,
Alex
right?
Mack, she had
Yeah,
powers. I was thinking of that too when you said Sabrina and all the others. I was like, oh, Alex
yeah,
Mack, she had powers as
yeah,
well. So and I love that they're reviving it in, with this urban feel, because Lele, I mean, she's it. She's definitely the one to follow right now, especially for the little ones. And like you
yeah.
said, perfect time. So we can watch what we want. The kids can watch what they want. We hop into what we want at 8. I think
Yeah.
Nickelodeon was smart about that. And then can you talk about having Will Packer on the producing side as well?
What a crazy honor, right? Like he's
Right.
such a great dude. We have not gotten to meet him yet because of COVID. But we've talked to him through Zooms, and he's watching our run throughs, and very, 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 he's loving the show. And it's just really exciting to be in his camp because I'm such a huge fan of what he does. And so it's like like all these extra cherries on top of this already wonderful cake. Because I just thought initially, I was like, I love my boss. David A. Arnold is amazing. And we got John Beck here and Ron Hart, who do other Nickelodeon shows and Fuller House and stuff, and they're great. And I'm like, also, I work for Will Packer. That's crazy. Like Will Packer knows who I am. And that blows my mind. And I can't wait we were both in Miami last week, and I was there for a family wedding. And I saw him on one of his, this lady Shayla, who works for him and works with us. I saw her Instagram story, and I texted her and I was like, man, I'm here in this bubble for a wedding. I want to hang out with you guys so I can meet Boss Man. So it's coming.
Now,
And I'm hoping that, look, I'm gonna just shameless plug. I'm hoping to meet him too. I got something for you, Will Packer. I got something for you. So go ahead, Brian. Go ahead, Brian.
now I just want to know from everything that you've been doing up to this point, what can we expect from Bryce?
Listen, I'll tell you, Bryce is he's David A. Arnold, the creator of the show. Like he's definitely got David running through his blood. And I love David, and it's such an honor to be the person he chose to be in this space. He's also my dad. My dad is so lovable, and also has like this very dry sense of humor that like we just get and love so much. And since I'm not a dad yet in real life, I'm pulling on the fathers that I know. And so Bryce is just, he is not afraid to be silly, to laugh at himself. He loves the crap out of his kids. He loves the crap out of his wife. He's a jingle writer. He and his wife write commercial jingles, which I feel like is just like in the multiverse of Nickelodeon, somewhere Shout, graduated from music school and moved on from the Fresh Beat Band and is now married with kids writing jingles somewhere, but yeah, no, he's just, I really, really love him. Playing him makes me feel good. Like I go to work and I'm just like, oh, I get to be in Bryce's skin, and it makes me happy. Like he wasn't the jock in school. He was the theater geek. He was, it's just like, I was like, yeah, right here. I got you. So.
No.
So if
I have
wait,
small...
real quick, I gotta say this real quick. If your dad was Bryce, does that make me Lele? Because y'all kind of took me in a little bit. Y'all was dropping me off at school and taking me to AGC. So I feel like Lele right now. So
yeah. And like Lele, you were loved by the family. Unlike Lele, you're not an avatar from an app. So that's good.
Not yet. You never know.
Not yet.
Prime, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, as far as Nickelodeon dads go, where do you think Bryce can rank? Like, where do you think the height is for Bryce?
Mm,
You
you
just
gonna ma-
automatically want to be the best, or you think you want to climb onto it? Where do you think that is?
Listen, I'm not gonna lie to you. Bryce is coming in pretty hot. He's coming in
okay.
smoking. He's firing on all cylinders.
Okay.
I do think what's interesting is I did my research because I was going and looking at all the dads on Nickelodeon, and I was like, oh man, there's like right now, I can't think of his real name right now, but Cole from Martin, uh,
Uh, Payne, Carl Anthony
Thomas Payne,
Payne,
Carl Anthony Payne.
Carl
Sorry,
Anthony Payne.
yeah. So he is the dad on Young
Young Dylan.
Dylan.
Mhm.
And I was like, are we the two black dads on Nickelodeon? That's kind of awesome. Like, if you had told little kid me that I'd be a dad on the network with Carl Anthony Payne, I would have been like, what? And I looked him up and I was like, oh, he's like older than me, and his TV kids are younger than me, are younger than my kids. Okay, but I think Bryce is going to come in pretty smoking. I think that I'm making a prediction because I want to put it out into the universe, but I really do think that I think people will be surprised how much they love Bryce and Trish, and that's my wife. And I think that I think with Nickelodeon allowed David to create some really sort of fun, fully engaged, fully formed parents who have lives, who have humor, who have who are on the ride with the kids, completely aware of what's going on, except for the big secret about Lele. But you know, we're not just parents who show up and are like there for the butt of the joke. We are, in fact, driving the comedy with the kids, and it's been really really fun. So
Okay.
to say, I think y'all got to watch out for Bryce. Bryce is gonna come in real fast
Okay.
and become a favorite.
Okay, we're gonna be ready. I mean, you got some big shoes to fill. I mean,
I
Brian, what's
do.
your favorite? I just real quick. We gonna poll you. I know it's
You gonna
about
put me on
time.
the spot? Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna put you on the spot. What's your favorite Nickelodeon dad?
Roger is a good one. Roger Rockmore is a
I knew you
good
was gonna
father.
say Rockmore Keenan.
That's the first one I could think of, but I, sure.
I already knew that was coming. So man, so I must ask, because you went from this, obviously we talked about it, you went from this quote unquote kid series with Fresh Beat, and now you're in a more mature role. We don't know yet. Actually, we don't even know how mature it
Yeah.
is. It might be crazy as hell. But and we'll find out. But in your personal life, I know that you're a huge advocate for the LGBT community.
Mhm.
And so what does it say about Nickelodeon and your own talent that they will allow you to play or cast you in this role? Did you earn this role to be in a traditional family?
Yeah, we talked about it, David and I, a couple weeks ago, and I was just telling him that it's not lost on me, that like none of that comes up in the audition process. So it's not like they were like check box here if you are on the acronym. And I was but I made a vow to myself actually during the Fresh Beat Band, the season 1 of the Fresh Beat Band. I was young, I was 24, 25, and I was just so excited to have a show and so scared because I was only recently really out to people, and I just didn't know if that would impact the show. And then season 2 of the Fresh Beat Band, I came back and I was like, okay, I'm spending way too much time with you all to not be honest about who I am. And so from that point on, I made the vow that like the talent will speak for itself. And in the same way that everyone else gets to live in their truth, I get to live in mine. And I'm not going to fake pronouns or not talk about my partner. We're just going to live, and the talent will speak for itself. And David, we got into a deep conversation about it one day, and David was just like, it's never been a thought. I didn't know, and then I found out, and it never has been a thought. You have at every turn. He said, I had high expectations for who this character was going to be because of how close it runs to me. He said, and I thought no one would get to that space, and then you have actually surpassed what I hoped this role would be. And I told him, I was like, I said, there's a little kid in me who believed that this kind of space would never exist for me, because of the thing we're now saying is just not important. It's as a part of me, as my Blackness, as my talent, as my everything else. And it's the talent that matters here and not anything else. And I think it's really really great. And I'm really honored because I have been very lucky. Most of my career has been me playing straight characters. It's actually weird when I play gay characters. I'm like, oh man, okay, how do I, because I also understand that like the way that I exist in regular life, for a lot of people that aren't around LGBTQ people who have very sort of stereotypical ideas of what a gay man looks or sounds or acts like, not realizing that like gayness is not monolithic. We are a spectrum in the same way that my blackness is a spectrum, in the same way that, you know, but that like me sometimes as myself in TV and film was not enough to be gay.
Mhm.
And so finding the balance when it is time to be gay, and sort of saying like this also is a part of that experience, in the same way that when I was younger and no one would hire me for certain kinds of black roles because I wasn't physically dark enough, or you know, like he's got this, he talks white,
Yeah,
and I'm
hood
like, no,
enough.
these
Yeah.
things, I'm like, that's why I'm acting. I didn't get into acting to be myself. I got into acting to be other things. And like this is, I do think like there's some alternate universe where like Tommy Hobson is hanging out with his wife and his kids. You know, it's just not this one. And it's such a natural space to be in. And I'm just overjoyed that not only do they let me do it, they don't care. It was never like even, you know, a thought in their minds that I could not do it, which I think is where we're heading. And I'm so happy that like we're getting there, because I don't think 10 years ago, you know, it would have been such a casual sort of, you know, thing, you know. But I will say to their credit, what, in 2008 when I booked, 2009 when we started filming season 1 of the Fresh Beat Band, the PR person uh pulled us in for like our little 101s and said, is there anything we should know? And I told them, I said, well, I'm gay, I have a partner, we've been together at that point for however many years now, it's like 15, almost 16 years. And I'm not, you know, I'm not trying to hide it, I just want to live my life. And to her credit, she said the network does not care and actually would only want to ask you how open you want to be about it, because if you want to be completely open with it and, you know, do interviews about it, we'll facilitate those for you. If you want to keep it to yourself, that's your business. But whatever it is you want to do, you know, we're here to facilitate that. And they've been that to me for over 10 years now. So that's great.
Yeah, that's great, man. And that's why I just wanted to make sure I got that question in, because I think it's important to highlight that, you know, well, you are an example. You get to be part of that history, especially with the network. And so kudos to the network for being so open and really even promoting, you know, equality in that way. And then kudos to you just for being yourself, man. I always appreciated that and the strength that you have just to be Thomas, you know. So much love
It's, I
there.
appreciate that, man, because you were there for some of the hard times of it, you know, as everyone tries to figure out who they are. And I will say, I look at the world now and I'm there's so much bad going on, but also like there's all this goodness. And like, I'm just really excited. I meet so many. I will tell you one thing. When I was doing the Fresh Beat Band, I was like, you know, these characters don't have ages. They don't have, you know, they don't have sexuality. They're not dating. They're like, you know, so it does, all of that doesn't really matter. But at some point, maybe one of these kids who love this show will grow up and find themselves in the space that I was in when I was a teenager or in my early 20s. And I was trying to find anyone or anything that I could relate to that looked like me, that would let me know that I would be okay. And that all the dreams I dreamt for myself, I could still have. That maybe one of those kids will find me. And the last like year or so, it's starting to happen where like the older kids are getting to an age where, you know, they're finding me on social media and they're like, I just want to tell you, like, don't want anything from you. I just want to tell you that you were my favorite on the show. And I never really understood why. And then I thought about you the other day. I did a deep dive on you and I was like, oh, that was it. Like I felt something in him that connected to me. And now I can look at this person I admire and, you know that I'll be okay, and know that like there's someone out there doing big things, you know, who's like me. And I think that's really great.
And then the way you're learning these lessons in the entertainment industry now, do we get these same type of life lessons on That Girl Lele? Because I'm just thinking about you've compared it to Fresh Prince, and I know there's some heavy stuff on there, but
Yeah, well, you know,
what do
listen,
the
as heavy as
parents
we
and
can
kids
get,
get from it? Yeah.
yeah, as heavy as we can get on Nickelodeon, because you know, Fresh Prince was a prime time NBC show, so they could definitely dig a little, you know, go a little deeper into those spaces. But you know, I think what's great about this show is that like, and I mean this in the best way possible, you know, for anyone who is not Black, but it is like unapologetically Black.
Love
You
that.
know,
Yeah.
like we celebrate every sort of facet of Blackness and all of its complexity, all of its wonder. We talk about Black hair, we talk about Black family, we talk about Black church, and it is not as dark as like, you know, that episode where, you know, why don't he love me, man?
Well,
You know, we don't yeah, we don't get that dark because it's still Nickelodeon, but you know, we get as close to that as we can to keep it real, and then finding the humor in that, you know. And so like, yeah, I'm excited to do more of it, and hopefully, you know, season 2 of the show people watch and we get to do more, and we get to keep peeling back the layers. David, Ron, and John are so good at finessing those moments so that you can get all of the. We still in the Fresh Meat Band too. We used to call them little moments. You know, like you don't want to be sad on Nick Jr. because you don't want to bring the kids down, but these real things happen, and so you have to give them a moment, and then you have to get out of it. You know, and so we're still in that sort of space where these things happen. We find the comedy in them, but when it's over, the lesson has been learned. And I think that people actually learn better when they're laughing. That's my personal opinion. Because you got to really listen to get the joke, you know. And I learn best when people are making me laugh. So
that's awesome. And I'm sure there's going to be tons of laughs on Lele, but go ahead, Prime.
I was gonna say, from meeting everybody to the table reads to the first episode to if y'all still shooting on y'all last shot, when did the chemistry click?
I'm gonna tell you, almost instantly. You know, we did the screen test like this on Zoom because COVID. So, you know, I'm in a box with my wife, you know, with you know, one of the 3 wives I went in with, and then the 2 kids had already been hired. Gabrielle and Peyton, who plays my son, they had already been hired. So they brought them in to read with each combination of parents. And that we were the last combination of people to go in. And there was just instantly something magical. And it's probably because I knew Tiffany and I didn't know she was going to be in one of the squares. So when she popped in, we both lost it and just started talking to each other and forgot anyone else was there for a while. But I think because she and I were so close, everything else just came sort of naturally, you know. Yeah, so it took, I mean, by the time we filmed the pilot, like I was calling them my children. And I was joking with someone earlier today that like, it drives my friends and family crazy. They think it's cute, but they laugh at me because I'm like, well, my son the other day said, he said, you know, oh my gosh, my son's mom is on this commercial that's running all the time. It's so great. You know, my daughter's mom said the other day, and they're like, what? I'm like, I'm sorry. It's just, they're like, you know, they're my kids. I love them.
It's family. It's family.
I worry about them. I hope they're okay. And, you know, I have my 2 kids on the show, and Lele's not my kid, you know, but she lives in the house and she's part of the family. And so I call her my TV daughter. And, you know, Caleb, who plays Jeremy and lives next door, you know, he's our little white neighbor. And I love him so much. He's so funny on the show. He's so funny off the show. Yeah. So it didn't take any time at all. And everyone was really, the executive producers were all, I remember after our first day of filming the pilot, one of the EPs said, it should have taken like 6 months for you guys to get to where you are right now. And I was like, yeah, no, it's just instant. You did a great job of lining up, and we look like family, which I also love, because sometimes on TV you watch a show and you're like, who's that? Who
daddy that is?
What?
Sort of like you in the Michael Jordan story, American
sort of
Hero.
like me, full circle.
Sort of like that. And so I could say I'm sold, especially, you know, asking that question about the life lessons. I knew, you know, Nickelodeon always sprinkles a little bit in there, but to hear you talk about it being unapologetically Black, knowing, you know, the talent that Lele possesses. The only other cast member that I've met is Gabrielle Nevaeh, and I love her to death. So I'm just so excited to watch this. Remember, on September 23rd, Thursday at 7:30, you guys make sure you tune in. I know I'm going to be tuning in with the kids, and I just can't wait to get me some of this Lele. She ain't lay low. It's Lele, okay?
Lele. Yes, all that Houston. All that Houston.
All that for sure. And then Prime, anything before we get up out of here?
I think that's it. But I might as well throw in this random question, because why not? I love episodes that have a performance in them. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna ask you, if they had like a talent show or whatever the case is, what song would you want to perform?
Ooh,
Mm.
that's a good question. Wow. Well, it depends on the kind of show. Like my go-to ballad. Um, so I don't know why, but it's Father Figure by George Michael. It's like my favorite karaoke song. So it would either be that or also I Can't Make You Love Me. I don't know why I'm such an old man when it comes to like karaoke songs. But yeah, one of those, because I know that I know at any given moment I can sing those songs.
Mm.
You know, I'm sure that people listening would probably love it if I had said, "Oh, Bananas" or "Great Day" from Fresh Meat Band," but I don't always remember how those songs go, and people think I'm lying about it. But there's like a little safe in my brain where I put things that might like drive me crazy if I think about them too much. And those songs were so
Lock it
good and
away.
so
Yeah.
catchy that I had to lock them in that box.
Well, I know for me, it'd be you didn't ask me, but "Kiss" by Prince. That's my go-to when it comes to
That's a good
karaoke.
one.
So you know, I can hit some high notes. You know, I got my training. Shout out to TLC. But yeah, man. Thank you so much, Tommy, for coming through. We appreciate you here on the Prime Nostalgia podcast. It was a long time coming, but this is the perfect timing. So we can't wait to release this and get everybody ready for that girl Layla.
I thank you all for having me. I'm glad it all worked out. I was like, yeah, we're gonna make this happen.
Absolutely. And you
And
stuck to your
it's
word.
great
Yeah.
now. Yeah, because we're done filming. So I'm like, great. I have time. Let's talk. Yes, this is awesome.
Awesome. And then, like we always say, Prime, what do we say? Give it to them.
Prime time is
Times
all the time.
all the time, baby. We out of here. Peace.